What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Questions You Never Thought to Ask, the Whitewater Kayaking podcast. My name is Seth Ashworth. I'd like to start off this week's podcast by apologizing that the podcast has been a little bit out of schedule the last couple of weeks. I am sorry. I'm endeavoring to do better. Hopefully, it will be better in the weeks coming. I'd also like to take a moment to give a big shout out to all the people who support this podcast on Patreon. That's a crowdfunding platform where you can donate a couple of dollars every month. You get early access to the podcast, and it pretty much just helps me keep it running smoothly. So big shout out to those people. And if you want to support on Patreon, it's www.patreon.com/Seth Ashworth. Early access to the podcast and the satisfaction of knowing that you help make it happen. So I appreciate those people. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to listen to this one. Finally, I would like to apologize a little bit for the spotty connection of this episode. There are definitely times where it's choppy and hard to hear my guest, Alec Voorhees, talk about what we're talking about this week, so I am sorry about that. I hope it will be better in the future. Unfortunately, the internet situation here is not always ideal, and sometimes it's just out of my control, unfortunately. So I'm sorry about that. I will endeavor to do better. Hopefully one day this podcast will be big enough people can just come here and sit down and talk at the table and stuff. But until that time, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening. Peace. Welcome back to Questions You Never Thought to Ask, the Whitewater Kayaking podcast. This week I'm joined by Alec Voorhees, and we are talking about a subject very close to his heart, his shoulder, and asking the ultimate question: was it worth it? The preface to this question coming via Instagram a few days ago. Alec posted a picture of himself running Alexandra Falls, a 100-foot waterfall in Northwest Territories, Canada, which has led to more than a year of physiotherapy and rehab and just generally not being at his optimal paddling performance, or not even really close to his optimal paddling performance. And the question we want to know is, was it worth it? Alec, welcome to the show. Do you want to talk us through a more detailed version of my story and trials and tribulations of that, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, for sure. So last year at Alexandra, I mean, it's been pretty well documented now, kind of what happened with our crew. So we were all super fired up. I was actually the one to go first. And so me and Evan were just kind of in our first little group. And then Shredward was behind us. And then Trent, Bren, Adrian, and Dane and Caleb were all there. So I went first, and I basically had the line that I thought was perfect, did exactly what I wanted to do, landed perfectly, whatever. And when I landed, I was tucking to my left side, just like I do on every waterfall. And as soon as I hit the water, my paddle just got ripped out instantly and just let go of it super fast. And then when I rolled up, I was like, all right, I'm good. So everything feels good. After a little bit, I was like, oh man, my shoulder, when I put my hands up to celebrate, I was like, my right shoulder just hurts really bad right now, but I was still buzzing off so much adrenaline or whatever. And then Evan went and was all good at the bottom. And then Shredward went and had his whole thing where we had to get him out of there after breaking his leg. But then, so dealing with all that, my shoulder just started getting more and more sore as it kind of went on. And then dealt with him, got him to the hospital, all that, went back the next day. And then obviously Bren's whole thing, that was super scary. So yeah, it was just a crazy time. I felt really lucky. I was like, oh, it's just a sore shoulder. I've had this before. Off waterfalls and different things, I'll be good. Just happy that everyone's okay. And everyone isn't too broken. But so then I took a few days off on the water and just kind of chilled after that, just kind of checking up, making sure everyone was okay. And then was at the Slave River and just kind of went out and paddled with my brother Hayden. And yeah, I was just still really sore, just kind of bugging me for a while. But I just didn't really think I thought it would be fine. And so after that, we booked tickets to Chile or whatever with Hayden, Evan, and then on the fourth day in Chile, this was like almost 2 months exactly, Alexandra, and so my shoulder was still a little sore, but it was still feeling good. And our fourth day in Chile, just on Tres Saltos, I went first and had, again, perfect line, tucked it to the left, and super soft hit, but as I rolled, just had a hard time rolling. Like, it was super slow and awkward. And then when I started to paddle, I was like, oh no, my shoulder's out. And so that was the first time that I did it. Got it put back in, and did shuttle for just kind of got it all sorted, and ended up booking my flight back home pretty early. We were supposed to be there for a month, and I left after like 13 days or something. And yeah, so I kind of just spent the winter not paddling, got an MRI as soon as I got back, and it said that I didn't need surgery, and so gave it some time to rest, and did PT all winter. And then this spring, when I got back into paddling after like 5.5 months, I felt super strong, like had a lot of mobility, felt really, was paddling high water, little wide, and cataracts of the current, kind of for all of April, and just feeling really stoked. Went back home because the North Fork of the Payette was super high, and I was super psyched to get back on there. And then the second time it came out was in Jacob's Ladder at Fort. Me and Todd Walls were doing a lap on his birthday, and like just super sick lap, just having a ton of fun. And then in Jake's, like it was all going good. I've run a ton of that flow, but it's just huge. And just was going through. Rock drop was good. Taffy Polar got kind of kicked over a little bit, but then at that flow, there's this really sharp rock called Witch's Tit that's right after Taffy Polar, and I'd seen like 2 years ago at like before North Fork Championship, when it was that exact flow, like hit that rock sideways and like kind of tomahawk over it, just because it's just under the water and super. And so I was like, hit Taffy, was bracing into it because I knew it was coming up. Like, okay, just stay stable, don't tomahawk, don't do anything stupid. And then was bracing on my downstream side, hit the rock with my paddle blade, and then it did that kind of thing where you like trip over your paddle, like if you're window shading or hitting a rock and you just kind of like fall over, and hit that rock and just ripped my shoulder out right across my. And then I was in the middle of Jake's without a shoulder basically, and there's like this super gnarly sieve rock thing 30 yards right below that, and so I just had to paddle the shore with my shoulder out, and ended up pinning myself on the log and waited there until Todd could get down and pull me off of it. And I was just on the log. I was just screaming, just like so pissed off, just so defeated, because I'd spent so much time and energy getting it back together. And first thing I thought of was North Fork Championships a month and a half, just like started crying because I was just so mad about it. And that's like my highlight of my year, and I just didn't think I was going to be able to do North Fork, and just spent so much time and energy to get it fixed after such a long, hard winter. And then obviously wasn't even close to being 100% because it just totally got ripped out when I tripped over my paddle. So I've been rehabbing now, and getting an MRI tomorrow. Actually, just had a busy time. Like, was able to do North Fork, but was nowhere. I wasn't ready to be paddling that at $3,000. Like, I bought this shoulder brace and was able to make it work, but I made finals with the new format, which was sweet. Was disappointed with how I did, but regarding how my shoulder was feeling and how strong it was I should have made it past the first round. I don't think, like, I was able just to pull it out, but And then, just been having a chill summer so far and getting surgery lined up here soon. So, we'll get that taken care of and go from there.
So I guess the short question is, what, like, knowing what you know now, like being in the position you are now, would you still have run Alexandra Falls a year ago?
That's the thing I just kind of think about all the time. Like, man, was it really worth it? I got hurt, and it's going to be like 2 years now from when it originally happened and to when I'm probably going to be at 100%. And then with Edward and Bren and all their stuff, like, we just all thought it was going to be like Trent. We were kind of joking around, like, after everyone was all good and stuff. He's like, yeah, here we go, rolling up to Alexandra, thinking it's going to be the next Metlaco. Like, everybody's going to want to run it. And then we just got lit up on it. And
I mean, and the interesting thing about that day and like your guys' day and the day after is that everybody who got really injured running that drop all said the exact same thing. Like, Brent said the exact same thing. I ran the perfect line, exactly what I wanted to run. Like, I did exactly what I wanted to do, and I still ended up in a almost worst position you can imagine, which is super interesting to hear you say almost the exact same thing as him. I'm not sure what his take on it is, if he would go again, knowing what he knows now, or if he'd let it go. I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I probably would have done differently now is I was always just super, like, 100% game on, like, holding and tucking with my paddle. Like, I just felt like I always had a really good tuck. I tweaked it a few times, but like nothing more that would be sore for like a couple days and then be all good again. And the MRI that I originally had showed that I had some scar tissue buildup from past things. So for me now, when I hopefully get back, I'm 100% again, I'm probably never going to tuck on my left side again. I'll either, if I have to tuck, I'll probably tuck on my right side, practice that, and then also throw my paddle. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would do, just because I think it's a lot less likely for that to happen.
Yeah, I've always been a pro. Back when I was running waterfalls a bit more frequently than I am now, I was always let go of your paddle. Pretty much unless you really had to be holding it for something like impending afterwards, I didn't want that thing anywhere near me when I landed. And definitely, the times I tucked with a paddle versus the other times, I would say I preferred no paddle, like 100% more than with a paddle.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a few times where you need your paddle, so it's like it's good to know how to do it. But
yeah, and it was just something that I always felt super comfortable with. Had a good tuck, got nice and tight. And that's just how I liked it. I never had any huge monster hits from it. It just worked well for me and was always good, and didn't really feel the need to throw my. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would change with it now. And I don't know, I still just waffle, like, man, it's like going to be 2 years from that, and just absolutely took away so much time on the water and what I wanted to be doing, like all these trips I wanted to do. Like, I was super bummed not to be able to paddle with Hayden and Evan down in Chile, and Adrian. The four of us were all down there, and like just perfect flows. I was the one that kind of was like, we should go to Chile for the early season Picon stuff, like get all the waterfalls, and like literally perfect flows for a month. It was just a bummer to be doing shuttle for those guys and then having to leave. And then this year, Evan, Johnny Chase, and Carson Lindsay are going to India and Pakistan to go do the Indus, and that was like the number one thing I wanted to do this year. And I'm just going to be sitting at home watching stuff on social media of their trip and talking to them when I can, but super bummed that not going to be able to do that. So it's just been like, it's been super tough just not being able to do what I want to do. And
what do you think,
so much time off the water?
If you had to say, like, I learned, like, like maybe running was a mistake, maybe choosing to hold your paddle was a mistake. I don't know where you think the mistake was, in your opinion, But knowing that you made a mistake, what was the lesson do you think you took away from it? Because I always like to think that it's definitely okay to make mistakes. That's like a really important part of growing, but you have to have some kind of takeaway. Otherwise, it was just a wasted experience. So what's the positive takeaway from your 2 years of misery here?
I mean, for me now, it's just like it's staying positive. Like, I mean, after that, after originally happened down in Chile, I was like, this sucks, but at least it's now. I'll be able to get back to next year. In May when it happened, like, oof, that month was rough. Like, just super, super, super tough. Just feeling super down all the time, but like I was able to pull through for North Fork and be able to at least compete. Didn't do nearly as well as I wanted to. Was disappointed, like I said, but then it was good that I was originally planning on being down in California for the whole summer with the awesome snowpack. I ended up right after North Fork. I ended up going to Spain to be a judge for the World Championships, and so that was super fun. Like I had a really great time just being able to kick back, hang out, and just get to enjoy Spain for a bit. And then I got off the main salmon a few weeks ago with Johnny and just a kind of Kernville, California stand-up paddleboard, the whole thing. Like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've just been having a super chill summer. Taught at Kelly's Whitewater Park, which was awesome. Still being able to boat North Fork and stuff right now. So it's been good. But yeah, basically I've just like been trying to focus on other things and stay positive. Know that I'll get back on the water, do my PT and stuff. But just like, I don't know, one thing that Emily Jackson's always told me and that I've kind of always liked is that nothing is ever as good or bad as it seems. So like,
Yeah, I've heard that exact saying before, and it always resonates well with me.
Yeah, and so it's like it's really, really hard to keep things in perspective when it's when you're having a hard time and stuff isn't going quite well, but quite going the way you want it to. But yeah, like right now I'm just kind of I'm past the part where I'm just down on myself. I'm ready just to get this dealt with and getting my MRI, doing some insurance stuff to get it switched, like get it all set up, and getting surgery as soon as I can, and doing some work this fall and winter, and then probably go to Boise State and kind of finish up some generals at school and stuff. So I've got a good plan right now just to kind of stay busy, be productive, make some money, and just kind of take it easy until next year. And I'm definitely not going to rush it at all. Everyone's like, depend. So many people have had shoulder surgery, and a lot of people have reached out to me, and it's been awesome. Just like recovery times and stuff. And I'm just going to totally take it chill. Like if people are saying 6 months or 9 to 12 months before they feel confident, I'm definitely going to be leaning more towards 9 to 12 before I start taking anything like super, super serious or hard. And then I'm also just going to, I think, just wear my shoulder brace as part of my normal paddling gear, like not go paddling without it unless I have it like a life jacket or something. Like,
Yeah.
just might as well have that, take that precaution. Just
what do you think are some like signs that people can look out for when they might be about to make a choice they're going to later regret? Like, do you think there's any like early warning red flags that people can be on the lookout for, that they might be able to do something that's going to have a significant impact down the line? Is there like, or do you think it's just like one of those things that could be just like a natural reaction, natural like response to some choices?
I mean, I feel like anybody that's running class 5, when you get to a certain point, it's like, all right, either you're going to be fine or you're going to be really messed up. And you just kind of have to really, 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 really take that into consideration. Like, okay, when I'm doing, I mean, for Alexandra, like my worries were, or boof, like that was, I just wanted to bow down, and I was like, everything else will be good. Like, as long as I don't boof it, everything's going to be fine. Whatever. And then obviously shoulder got wrecked, broken leg, and gnarly head injury. It's like, all right, there's a lot more that you need to think about, even on just all kinds of other stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know if there was like a particular red flag when you're about to do something, or if it's just you got to really think about every possible thing that could happen and learn from other people's mistakes and your mistakes, and just be like, okay, I just have to be okay that, like, I think I'll be like, if I'm 70% sure that everything's gonna be perfect, like that 30% chance or whatever, like, is it gonna be worth not paddling for 2 years? And yeah, it's hard to say. You just gotta listen to yourself and be realistic. You can't just be like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, it won't happen, because I mean, crazy things happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the takeaway
and
for me. It's like to hear you speak about your experience and to hear Brent speak about his experience there. It's like you're both doing something which is for sure challenging, but for sure within both of your ability levels, for sure something you've trained for. You're all for sure like planned and prepared for a variety of outcomes and worst case scenarios. And you both had lines or reported having lines that you thought were as good as they could be, like exactly what you wanted. And then both with different injuries, but both are recording that you had these like really bad injuries that have affected you for like longer periods of time than you'd like. And I don't see any like correlation of things that people could be on the lookout for if we scaled it back to like if you had been kayaking for just 2 years or whatever and you're running like class 3 and class 4. Like I don't know what the same like the scale down features would be. But it definitely just seems like it's just one of those. It can be just one of those things, and it's unfortunate, but it's like that's the way she goes,
Yeah. I mean, when you're in that elite 1%, and you're just trying to push it harder and harder and get like your skills and everything gets so much better, and you just want to run harder stuff and bigger stuff. It just gets so much the margin for error is just so much less with all that stuff. Like if you're a class 3 boater and you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna run this class 5, like, well, easy, like that class 5 is probably what we call class 4, like, and I'll be totally fine with that. But when you're getting to wanting to run 100-foot waterfalls, then that margin just gets so much smaller. And for me, it's like, it's crazy too, because like, all right, so Alexandra is 110 feet or whatever, but then you go 20 feet smaller, and let's just say Abaquah. Like, Abaquah had this bad rep for a while, and now it's just like the sickest, like most awesome big waterfall that you can do right now, like for a really, really big waterfall. And then kind of same thing with Ram, like Knox ran it a couple times this year, and Trent, and obviously Edward and Anya last year. Like, even that one is seeming super, super good to go, until it's not, obviously. But with Alexandra, like, I mean, you look at all those and you're like, Alexandra's probably the best looking one. If you were to pick one and make it 60 feet, I'd probably pick Alexandra as like the sickest one. And so it's just like where does that kind of line happen? Or like, there's just so much about waterfalls that's so unpredictable. It's just hard to tell.
I guess what I was like when we started this conversation, what I was trying to get is like, what is something that the average kayaker should be on the lookout for, and like what is a feeling that they might have if they're about to do something that they're going to later regret. But I think the more we talk, the more sure I am that everything can be going right until it's not. And I don't know what the value takeaway for people is here anymore. Like when we started talking, I assumed there'd be like some kind of aha moment where we were like, oh yeah, like, this is what you should be on the lookout for, and then you'll be good. But the more we talk, the more I'm like, it doesn't seem like there's an aha moment, and there's like, it can come at you from out of nowhere when everything's going your way,
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, when I because it was August 9th was 1 year from it, and it kind of snuck up on me. Like, I didn't know it was August 9th. I hadn't been like waiting 2 weeks for that day or whatever, like kind of some big anniversary. I was just like, man, I think we were running Alexandra really soon. Like, I know Evan's birthday is on the 10th. I think we did it on his birthday or something, and I looked and it was like, oh, today's 1 year. And I just kind of was in the car and just sat there for a while and just started thinking about everything. And I was like, man, how crazy. Like, it's been a year. It'll be another year now with my shoulder surgery until I probably feel 100%. Like, just crazy how long that is. And yeah, so I think it's just, I mean, for me, like, I've always been really confident with what I'm paddling. I've never run anything that I didn't think I could do. And whenever I walk something, it's more just like, I can do it, but I just don't want something stupid to happen, you know, like I've always been super like analytical with what I run and never run anything that I'm like, oh, like that there's a small chance of me making it through, like, or if it is, it's something that has virtually no consequence, you know, like, but yeah, I mean, you can just be running a rapid and you miss your boost stroke and then you're stuck in this hole and it's no fun anymore. It's the same thing when you're doing this stuff. Like, you're making your decision, like, all right, it's all going to be good. Feel good about it. I have the skills. I nail it. And then yeah, it just doesn't pan out. Things happen that you're not quite expecting. And so I think just really taking everything into account is something that I'm going to be really thoughtful of from now on. Like, I still want to run waterfalls. I still love running waterfalls. But like, when I am in the Northwest and I pull up to Abaquaw, I'm going to really, really, really think about it if it's really worth it or not. So yeah, it's hard. It's the game we play, though.
It's the game we play. I really thought, like, the more we talked it out, the more there would be some kind of conclusion. But now I feel less concluded than ever that there's like a, it can just come at you out of nowhere now, and that's yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about that.
For me too. It's interesting, like, people just hearing my side of it and then kind of knowing what happens, and then them making their decision on whether it was worth it or not. And like, when I got quite a few messages and people were like, was it worth it? Like, I'd like to hear your thoughts, or you should write a blog about it. And then they would answer. And I mean, it was pretty 50-50 on whether it was 100% worth it or like, no, dude, it's not worth it. So everyone's scale's totally different. And it's just something that, as a paddler, or doing anything really, you just got to weigh the pros and cons. And if that's what you really want to do and you're okay with it, then go for it. And
all right, then, Alec, last thing then before we wrap this up, would you do it again?
I will not run Alexandra again, but if I were to go back in time, I probably would still run it, but I just would have thrown my paddle. That's kind of the consensus I've come to, is
good.
I won't run it again, but I think if I threw my paddle, who knows, things might be different.
Well,
if I throw my paddle,
you can't live your life by what ifs. It's just like,
Yeah.
But if you could go back in time, you still would do it again.
Yeah, I think so. I was really fired up for it. I was really, really confident that I was going to have a good line. Who knows if I would have done it again, like, tuck up again, who knows, get a different boil. I could have had the exact same line and something else would have happened, but I think if it was there again, I wouldn't have walked away. I would have wanted to run it. I drove so far and was looking forward to it for each. I think I still.
Well, you know what, man? Like, if that's the takeaway thing that we have from all this, if you're like, if I could go back in time, I'd still do it again, then it was the right decision. And I think that's good.
Yeah, but I would just rather not be taking 2 years off the water, obviously. But
I mean, nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems.
Yep, exactly.
And that I think is a great place for us to leave it. Alec, where can people follow you on social media and things?
You can follow me on Instagram, Alec Voorhees Kayak. I have Facebook as well. Those are probably Instagram's probably the best place. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I'm an open book. I definitely don't shy away. I don't.
You've got a lot of free time right now to answer questions. So
Yep, just getting some work, doing some work, and hanging out in Idaho this winter. So got some time.
Man. Okay, well, I think that's great. Thanks for talking to us, Alec. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. We'll see you next time on Questions Never Thought to Ask.
Yep, thanks a lot.